And we move on to the next speaker, Dr. Yiming Bao. She will tell us about NGDC, CNCB.
Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me put into the play mode. Okay, so thanks again. And since this is our first presentation here, so I'll just, instead of going through just update, I'll probably just talk about some history of our institute or our center, and so give you some idea of how we come to this stage today. So the title I put here is Resource of China National Center for Bioinformation. So, and the host also mentioned of NGDC, so it stands for National Genomics Data Center here, so which I'm the director of. So I'm going to explain what these two are later on. So for this audience, I don't think I need to explain what NSDC is. Consists of our colleagues here, DDBJ, NCBI, and EBI. And I think the point here I want to mention is actually the point. That's why I kind of asked the follow-up question about this journal requirement, because to us still now the major driving force is the data requirement for journals. Before paper is published, they need to deposit into an international recognized database. Okay. So some background in China. So as the previous talk mentioned that, you know, lots of genome sequencing project has been going on everywhere. So China is not an exception. So there are lots of genome sequencing project, lots of data generated. So for example, it's estimated that 20% of the data in NSDC is produced by China. Okay, so however, there was a lack of data sharing in China. So there's some reasons for that. The first one is that there was no policy to enforce data sharing. Okay, so although this has been changed recently, but still it's not kind of everywhere being covered. So we have some policy in some funding agencies, but not all. And also, as I said, this is mostly publication driven. And there are technical issues that prohibit the data sharing into international databases like NSDC. So for example, international network bandwidth. So especially we have this problem in China. So when you try to connect it to outside China, the speed is very slow. And sometimes there's a language barrier that's prohibited communication between data submitter and indexers. So making this sharing very difficult. So just to give some examples of how big the data has been generated. So this is an example published in Nature in 2020. So in this paper, the data set involved is 350 terabytes. So when they submit it to us, it cannot be transferred through the internet. So what they did was they shipped the server directly from the sequencing company directly using an express service truck directly to our center. So we hook it up to our server to the transfer. And so this is one example. There's an even larger example where it is published last year and involved 10K patients, and the total number of data is 2.3 petabytes. So you can imagine it's almost impossible for us to transfer this data across board to DDBJ or NCBI or EBI. So despite all these difficulty, even without any of these issues, there was no incentive to share data because data sharing costs takes time, take energy, take people, take money. So if there's no incentive, nobody wants to share the data. Okay, so to overcome this, our institute, Beijing Institute of Genomics, BIG for short, which is different from BGI, by the way, I should mention here. And we established a big data center in 2016, basically try to cover the data from deposition to integration and to translation. And so NGDC, we have very glad to have a very strong scientific advisory board, including Dr. Gujabri here, Yas here, and Yixue Li here, and many others from NCBI and EBI, and so on. And our data center has been growing pretty rapidly. From 2016, we had 9 kind of major resources and keep growing from every year. And this year we have about 50 resources in different categories. We subdivide into about 9 categories. And because of this progress, China established national scientific data centers in 2019. And so basically, it's tried to establish and try to resolve 2 things. One is to make a mandatory deposition requirement into these national scientific data centers from government-funded projects. So basically, that's what Dr. Wang just mentioned, that we need to, our country need to have this mandatory deposit. And where to deposit, then that's why they established this National Scientific Data Center. And the first batch of data center involved 20, and we are one of them, which is called China National Genomics Data Center, so NGDC. And after that, later in the year, China established National Center for Bioinformation, so CNCB in short. So this is also affiliated with our institute. So basically is to do a broader data type. Again, as Dr. Huang mentioned, it's not just Omix, it's other types of data, okay. So this is our homepage for NGDC. So as you can see, it consists of resources, different types, from raw data to tools, literature, etc. And these are our major resource databases. So one of them is called GSA, Genome Sequence Archive, which is equivalent to SRA at NCBI. So which is the most demanded database in China because of the large size. So this shows the growth of the data, and currently it's more than 10 petabytes now, including human. Or also we have a GSA for human as a separate, just to host human data. And this GSA supports major grants. So in China, they are like the grant from most, the Ministry of Science and Technology, and NSFC and Chinese Academy of Science. So the total grants we are supporting is more than 4,000. And also for data, for journal acceptance. So our data being published in more than 270 journals, and total articles more than 800. So it's also growing very fast. And in addition to individual journals, our GSA was also endorsed by publishers like Elsevier. So Elsevier lists for gene and gene expression, it lists some database from EBI and GenBank, and also recently including GSA here. And for Springer Nature, for their nucleotide sequence and omics data, in addition to NSDC, recently they add our GSA into this DNA sequence data type. So besides GSA, so we also developed a suite of other databases for omics. For example, this is a genome warehouse, so for host complete genome. So because of the time limit, I'm not going to go into detail about every one of them, just going through very quickly. So this is a gene expression. This is epigenomics resources, mass bank, single cell mass bank, some EWAS, epigenome-wide association tools, etc. So this is a genome variation equivalent to dbSNP. And after the COVID-19 outbreak, we very quickly established this resource for coronavirus 2019, and we collect and make a non-redundant data set for all SARS-CoV-2 genome sequences. And also, so this show growth of the data and their distribution in different countries. And so this is the resource kind of types. So in addition to genome sequence data, we also have clinical records, and we have developed lots of tools from genome assembly, genome annotation, validation, identification, validation, annotation, and blast comparison. And also we pre-calculate genome variations. So including variation statistics, annotation, etc. So for people to quickly use this data efficiently. And literature, and for evolution, we have trees, genome browser, and haplotype network. So this is just an example of how this haplotype network can help people to trace the spread of virus by time in different countries and their relationship of these genotypes. And our users have been across the country, and currently we have more than 1.3 million users covering 179 countries, and our data being downloaded is 1.9 billion pieces. And also our resource being referenced by other resources like Virazone, UCSS genome browser, and some other bioinformatics centers. So in addition to Omix data, we are now facing, because for government funded project, they are generating different types of data, as Professor Wang also mentioned. So we developed this archive for miscellaneous kind of data. So we call it Omix. So as you can see, it has different types, including imaging, microarray, these different types. Sometimes even it's a text file or Excel spreadsheet, these kind of different types of things. So we developed this for all these kind of multi-types data. And also we developed this literature search integrating PubMed, archive, medRxiv, etc. And with some modification, additional tools to help people. And we have this database commons resource. Basically, it's a database for databases. So have some statistics about where, how many data centered by each institute and by country, and show the trends of new databases by country, etc. And also we developed this big search engine in our center. So it not only can use to search database within our NGDC, but also we have partners, we call big data partners, consists of 40 also databases across China, very highly used databases. So we put their index files together into this engine. So when you do a search, you can do cross database search. And recently, we also integrate EBI and the NCBI search engines into this search engine. So when you do a search, keyword search, it can show result from NGDC and partner database, and also show EBI's result and NCBI's result. And recently, because AlphaFold protein structure database was established in EBI, we also incorporate this in our search engine. So when you search human, for example, you got this many hits from the AlphaFold database. And also we developed many tools, online tools for helping people to do sequence analysis and other things. And we put a kind of different version of BLAST into our server, including, so the unique features, we add many different databases. Some of them are unique, generated by us into this server. And we are doing also lots of international collaboration. So for example, for SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing, we collaborate our partners in Pakistan, and we sequenced 150 samples from Pakistan and do the analysis, and this been recently published. And for also in SARS-CoV-2, we have a joint grant awarded from BRICS. So this is for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa Consortium, and doing more sequencing analysis, and we so on. And also we have a very close collaboration with NSDC, all three centers, and including DDBJ, NCBI, and EBI from 2016 until almost every year we are meeting with them or visiting or have training, send people to the NCBI, for example, to do training and visiting. And we are also doing actually some data sharing with NCBI using SARS-CoV-2 sequence as an example. So we integrate our data to NCBI. So in this case, this is a GenBank record. So not only it shows GenBank record or NSDC accession, it also shows our accession. So when you search using either NCBI or our accession, it can be retrieved. And just some of the challenges ahead. So we still need stable funding to cope with large number of data. And so, for example, storage, the shortage of storage is a headache for us, and also data security and the backup. And also CNCB is actually in its inventory stage. So we need to figure out how it can be developed by working together with many other partners in China to make it growing really fast. So lastly, I would like to acknowledge everybody in our center. So we have close to 100 staff and students, and also funding support. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the great talk, and I have a very simple question. Yeah, even though there are many challenges still, but it's really a huge advances and achievements in recent years of NGDC. And I have a very simple question. And in case of the GSA and GSA human, how many people working on those databases? I mean, for the management and construction of the database, as well as the quality control and curation, maybe there will be many people. Yeah, and I'm just simply curious that how many people are simply working on those projects?
So we have about 10 people working on that particular project, GSA and GSA human.
Including the software engineers?
Yes, yes.
How about DDBJ? Can you answer? Can you answer the question?
Well, from me and for the SRA, DDBJ's SRA, that is the counterpart of GSA. Well, I think, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 personnel for the SRA.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. And maybe in Korea, it's really also it's very simple question, but it was very important information because for the funding we have to write down the how many people are still working on each country. So in our case, we also maybe 4 or 5 people are working on our projects. So maybe maybe the similar number of the people are still working on, but in case of Korea, but we need to put manual efforts either. Thank you for your answer.
No problem.
Okay, any other question? Okay, thank you, Dr. Bao.